Coming up on Fox 8's ACC Tournament Special, can the Tar Heels win it for the second straight year?
Roy Williams and his team celebrating in the visitors' line.
Carolina's inner drive starts with their point guard.
I just want to win, and that's what I go out on the court each and every day for.
The Duke Blue Devils return home to the friendly confines of Cameron Indoor Stadium.
The longtime voice of the Blue Devils shares some memorable moments.
Dennis Smith Jr. from Fayetteville, North Carolina.
One of the few bright spots for NC State this season, their one-and-done star, Dennis Smith.
I learned how to play basketball starting out on the outside court. You know, I was playing on grass until it turned to dirt.
John Collins of Wake Forest has NBA dreams too, but first he's focused on this ACC tournament.
To put Wake back on the map would be big time for myself and obviously for the program in Wake Forest.
All this and more on our ACC Tournament Special. Later on our ACC Tournament Special, what's the story behind those big heads at Wake Forest basketball games?
It's, you know, obviously for like distracting people at the free throw line on the other team.
When you have that fat head, you feel like it's really, you're the one who's making them miss that free shot.
Plus, we talk with a longtime voice of the Blue Devils, Bob Harris.
I've enjoyed it. I really have.
This season will be his last with Duke. And speaking of Duke, their 2011 ACC Tournament Championship made it 10 in 13 years. Welcome back. When the Duke Blue Devils play their final game of the season at some point in the NCAA tournament, it will mark the end of the career of longtime radio play-by-play guy Bob Harris.
You know, Bob Harris is truly one of the good guys in ACC sports. He's had a remarkable career with one of the best seats in the house, not only witnessing ACC basketball history, but telling it. When Bob Harris looks around Duke's famed Cameron Indoor Stadium, the memories come rushing back.
He's got one free throw to ice it. It's up. It is no good. Parks rebounds to Capel with 2 seconds. Capel lets fly. It's good. Holy cow, we got double overtime.
Harris has spent 41 years as the play-by-play man for Duke football and basketball.
Every now and then I stop and think, you know, how many more games have I got?
It was his decision this summer to call it a career at the end of basketball season.
This is it. I've enjoyed it. I really have. Meeting people like you and all these others around the league, that's what's made it so good. I always wanted to be Jimmy Brown and not Willie Mays, because I felt like Willie had stayed maybe 4 or 5 years too long. Jimmy left at the top of his game.
Harris remains sharp. He was recently voted the North Carolina Broadcaster of the Year and is the only Duke broadcaster for nearly 2 generations of Blue Devil fans.
You have people come and say, you know, I don't know of anybody else who has done the Duke play-by-play. I mean, they might be 38, 39, 40 years old, but they don't remember anybody else but me when they're listening.
Good, perfect.
Great, thank you, congratulations. When we announced my retirement in July, I mean, the Twitter and Facebook stuff just filled up for a while. And that made me feel so good that people cared enough that they would do that.
Harris, who will be 75 later this year, still remembers when he first stepped foot in Cameron.
I remember walking in and walking onto the edge of the floor. The lights were off, and I looked around, I'm thinking, this is where Dick Grote and Jeff Mullins and all those guys played. And I'm standing on the same floor. Now I can say this is where Christian Laettner and Bobby Hurley and Grant Hill and yada yada, on and on and on have played. It's almost a who's who of basketball have been on this floor. Not just our guys, but they mean the most. There's that air of this is a special place.
The Duke Blue Devils return home to the friendly confines of Cameron Indoor Stadium. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Bob Harris. John Roth, John Rose, and I are back in the Crow's Nest.
Whether it's from a courtside seat or the Crow's Nest at Duke, Harris has been a witness to not only Duke history, but college basketball history, including one of the most famous shots from the NCAA tournament.
Throw at the length of the floor. Laettner catches, comes down, dribbles, shoots, scores! Christian Laettner has hit the bucket at the buzzer. The Blue Devils win it, 104 to 103. Look out, Minneapolis. Here come the Blue Devils.
It's gotten more notoriety for me than anything I could have ever bought and paid for, really. I've even had people say, can you do it again for me? You know, things like that. And that's flattering to me, I think.
13 Final Fours, 10 national championship games, and all 5 of Duke's national titles. Harris has seen it all.
That's something that so many of my counterparts in this country never have the opportunity to do, and I feel so blessed to be able to have done that.
What he'll miss the most? The people, coaches like Mike Krzyzewski.
He and I have a great relationship.
And the players, too numerous to mention.
I've had players from 1976, 77, my first 2 years, to email me and congratulate me on a great career. Things like that, you can't buy that. To be able to call these young men friends is a very, very precious thing for me.
So after 4 decades behind the mic, how would he like to be remembered?
He was a good guy. I think that's probably the highest compliment I could get.
And that's exactly the picture most fans have of Bob Harris. Again, really a good guy.
Yeah.
Love Bob Harris.
3 on the Carolina 45.
Back at Keenan Stadium, Chapel Hill.
For an entire generation of Carolinians,
Busted play.
this is what football sounds like.
Ronnie McGill off the left side.
Gets blocking on the left side, turns the corner.
30, 35, 40, 45, 50, cutting back.
And then is finally snowed under across the Duke 40-yard line.
In Bob Harris's 30 years of calling Duke football and basketball, he's outlasted
2 basketball coaches, 8 football coaches, 3 athletic directors, and 4 presidents.
Woody Durham's 35 years of calling Carolina games are something of a surprise even to him.
When I got the opportunity to start doing the Carolina games in 1971, doing play-by-play on the radio was not even on my radar. I was a television guy.
But long before that, in a textile town of 12,000 in Stanley County, Woody Durham was the guy on the field. He played guard on Albemarle High School's undefeated football team in 1957 and began to see his future.
I had gotten started in radio just before my junior year in high school. I had a real love for sports and athletics, and I was smart enough to think that, hey, maybe I could combine these two.
These boys that played for me back then are just like my own children.
Toby Webb wasn't so much coaching football at Albemarle High School.
There's Woodrow.
As he was teaching life.
Those 2 boys were just terrifically fine young men, and they worked hard. This just wasn't thrust upon them. They have earned every bit of it.
That's right, he said 2 boys. While Woody played guard,
Woody Durham was on top of him. His feet flipped out from under him, and Woody Durham was right on that and ate it.
Bobby Harris was on the sidelines too as team manager.
When I was a sophomore in 1957, I was 5'9" and 119 pounds, believe it or not.
When Harris graduated from Albemarle a year after Woody, he appeared to be going in a different direction. Harris earned a scholarship to NC State from his father's textile company.
After 2 years, I realized that, and 4 summers working in the plant itself there in Albemarle, that I was never going to change the textile industry to make it better for the workers.
Their idyllic years of youth in Albemarle faded like so much of the town, but both men took the sense of community they learned there to their job of giving voice to their schools.
Well, they can't penalize them anymore. How do you split 3 inches?
Well, I guess you just move it from 6 inches to 3 inches.
Okay, 1.5 inches. I understand that.
We are sometimes the only connection that so many people in this state have with the university in Chapel Hill.
Play action fake looking, pumps it, gonna throw deep. Mason there. Oh, just overthrown. Mason quit running.
Although their childhoods forever entwine their lives, their professions keep them in separate social booths.
You know, we've seen some very spirited Duke Carolina games, Wes, and I have a feeling we're going to see another one this afternoon.
Bob and I have a great deal of respect for each other, but I think the competitive nature of the 2 schools with whom we're associated keeps us from being close boyhood friends.
I guess we gravitate toward the center of our universe, and for me it's Duke, and for him it's Carolina.
Now going to run the quarterback draw, bounces it.
Each is a reflection of the school whose games he calls and of the schools he passed through.
And Brown and Davis were really putting the pressure on Matt Baker.
Their old coach knows they belong to something bigger than their hometown.
They're just part of the Duke Carolina scenery.
And each of the men knows that he has been kissed by fortune.
My wife and I were talking about this in the summer, and she said, if you had been able to sit down and write a script for your career, could you have improved on it any? And I said, no.
No television coverage tonight. We're all you got.